Hey Finxters! Now recently I had a question request from one of our Finxter family members, so I thought of coming up with a solution quickly. So I am making this video to give a solution to that question. Now what was the question? Let's have a look. Our friend right here has asked, can you tell me how to take user input for tuples and sets? Well, yes, I can definitely help you with this. So let's have a look at the solutions. I will demonstrate the solution with the help of couple of examples for sets as well as for tuples. So let's dive into the solution for the sets first and then we will discuss about tuples. So as you can see, initially I have the variable set underscore val and I am using the input method ask the user to enter a value. Now I am also prompting him with this comment that you have to enter exit to stop. Now you'll find the importance of this statement later on, but let's have a look at the code first and then we will try to break it down with the help of the output. Now I have created an empty set with the name set underscore x. So this is how you create an empty set. After this, I'm checking if set underscore val, which is the value entered by the user, is not equal to exit. This is because if the value is exit, then we will simply return the empty set. Otherwise, store the value entered by the user in the variable set underscore x. And we will first typecast it to a set and then store it within set underscore x. After that, we have our while loop, which will iterate as long as the user keeps entering different values. Now, once again, within our while loop, we are first checking if the value, that is the first value that was entered by the user, is equal to exit or not. If it is not equal to exit, then we go ahead and once again ask the user to enter another value. So this means the user gets a chance to enter the second value in the set. Then we check if that value is equal to exit or not. If it is equal to exit, then we simply break out of the loop and then we print our output. Otherwise, if it is not exit and the user enters a different value, then we simply go ahead and use the add method, which is a method of the set that allows you to add a value to a given set. So we simply use it with our set underscore x, which is our set that stores the values dot add, and within this we pass the value entered by the user. Now this can be confusing, I know. So we need to break this down with the help of an example. Before we move on to example 2, let us try to understand example 1 first. Now, in order to explain this to you, I'll use a few print statements that will make things crystal clear for you. So let's begin from the first line of code itself. We have our user input, then we have our empty set. Now we are checking if that user input is exit or not. Let's say that the user input in the first case is 1. So set underscore x will now store 1 within it. I said that I'll be using some print statements. Let's not use print statements. Let's use comments to understand this. Now we move inside our while loop and we will iterate as long as the user keeps entering a new value and that value is not equal to exit. So within our while loop, we are checking if the value within set underscore value variable is exit or not. And what is the value at this point of time within set underscore val? It is 1. So this condition is true. Hence we move inside the if block and then once again we ask the user to enter a value. Now let's say the user enters another value which is 2. We then move on to the next line of code and then we check if the value entered by the user now is equal to exit or not. Definitely it is not equal to exit since it is 2. Hence we simply go ahead and we add this value to our set, which is set underscore x. So what was set underscore x? Set underscore x had the value 1 stored within it. Now this program will simply go ahead and add the value 2, which is recently entered by the user, to this set, which goes by the name set underscore x. So set underscore x now has the values 1 and 2. Now once again, we move on to the next iteration and Python checks if set underscore val is exit or not. So what is set underscore val at this point of time? Yes, it is 2. So this condition is evaluated to true. And once again, we move inside this if block and we ask the user to enter the next value. Now let's say that the user enters exit. That means the user does not want to enter any other value in the list. In that case, Python checks if set underscore val is not equal to exit, but this condition is no longer true because set underscore val is indeed exit at this point of time. Hence, we move inside the else block and after that we break out of the loop. Once we break out of the loop, we simply go ahead and print set underscore x. And what is the value within set underscore x? It is 1, comma 2. So that gets printed as an output. So let's check if this works or not. So enter a value, let's say 1. And once again, it says enter a value, let's say 2. Now let's enter a string, let's say Finxter. Now, once again, it asks enter a value. So let's exit now and let's see the output. And there we go. As you can see that now the set has these values stored within it. Now let me remind you that sets are unordered and they only have unique elements within them. So I hope you remembered this. So this is the exact output that we were expecting and this is what we got. Now, this was a little complex example, but I purposely chose a complex example initially so that you can understand the next example with ease. So in this example, we are simply going ahead and asking the user to input some text. Now, just like list comprehensions, I have used a set comprehension here, wherein we are returning the integer value of x such that x lies within a. And we are splitting a whenever we find a comma. So to better understand this, let's comment this out and let's try to print a dot split and let's split it with the help of a comma. So whenever there's a comma, the value will be splitted. So let's see what happens when we execute this. So let's say it asks some text. Let's say we entered the values 1, 2, and 3. Now let's press enter. So as you can see, this is what we got. Let's comment this out as well. Let's execute this once again. Now let's enter 1, 2, 3 once again. Yeah, so we got a list consisting of 1, 2, and 3. So this is what exactly happens in this line of code. And then we go ahead and convert this entire result, which is a list, into a set. And then we simply go ahead and return it as an output. So the only difference in this case is that previously we were asking the user to enter the values one by one until he wanted to enter the values. But in this case, the user has to enter the entire set all at once. Then we use our set comprehension to separate those values and store them in another set and then return it as an output. So let's see. Let's execute this. Let's once again enter 1, 2, 3, let's say 4 and 5. Now let's press enter. And there we go. As you can see that we have the desired set. So this is how you can accept user input as a set from the user. Now accepting user input as a tuple is quite similar to this. So let's have a look at that. Now let's proceed with the simpler example and then we will move on to the more complex example. So let's say that the user will enter all the values of the tuple all at once. Hence, we have a list comprehension here. So this line essentially represents a list comprehension, wherein let's say if the user enters the values 1, 2, and 3, then these values get splitted and they get stored in a list as 1, 2, and 3 with the help of this line of code. Then we simply go ahead and convert this list to a tuple with the help of the tuple method. So this is nothing but we are typecasting the list to a tuple and then we are printing the output. So let's check this out. Let's comment this out first. Now let's execute this code. Oops. Let's rerun this code. Okay, so let's enter 1, 2, 3, and there we go. So this is how you can accept a user input as a tuple from the user. Now let's have a look at our complex example. So let's comment this out. Now let's have a look at our complex example where the user can enter the values one by one. So we are asking the user to input a value. So let's say that the user enters 1. Now we are creating an empty tuple, goes by the name tup underscore x. Now we are checking if the user input, that is tup underscore val, is not equal to exit. No, it is not, because the value is 1. Hence, we go ahead and store this value in our tuple tup underscore x. So tup underscore x at this point of time stores the value 1. Now we move inside our while loop, which will keep iterating as long as the user does not enter the value exit. So once again, we are checking if tup underscore val is not equal to exit. Well, tup underscore val at this point of time is 1. So it is definitely not equal to exit. Hence we move inside this block. And once again, we ask the user to enter a value. Now let's say that the user enters the value 2. Now once again, we are checking if tup underscore val, which is the value entered by the user, is equal to exit or not. No, it is not equal to exit. So we move inside the if block and we go ahead and we simply attach this value to our tuple tup underscore x. Now it is extremely simple, just like string concatenation. You can add or attach values to a tuple using the plus operator. So this essentially means tup underscore x equals tup underscore x plus tup underscore val. Now please note that I have converted tup underscore val to a tuple. So this is how you can convert a string to a tuple. And in order to ensure that the string is not broken, you have to use a comma here. Now let's say that instead of being 2, this value entered by the user was TWO2. In that case, if we would not have used this comma, let's say this comma was not present, then this is how the value would have looked. It would have looked like this. TWO. That means each character would have been considered as an element or an item within the tuple. But we don't want that. We want this entire string to be treated as a single element within the tuple. So in order to ensure that, you have to add a comma after the string that has been entered by the user. So this means tup underscore x was initially storing the value 1, but now it will go ahead and store another value, which is TWO2. We do not need this print statement. Okay. Then we move on to the next iteration and we check if tup underscore val is exit or not. No, it is not exit because it is 2 at this point of time. So we move on inside the if block and we ask the user to once again enter a new value. So now let's say that the user enters the value exit. Now as soon as Python finds exit, it will no longer execute this line of code. Rather, it will move inside the else block and then it will break out of this loop. After breaking out of this loop, it will simply go ahead and print tup underscore x. And what does tup underscore x store? It stores 1, 2. So this is the output that we get. So let's check this if this works or not. So let's say 1 has been entered by the user. Now once again, the user has to enter another value. Let's say he enters 2. Now let's say that the user enters exit. So there we go. As an output, we have these values returned. That is 1 and 2. So this is how you can accept user input as a tuple. So I hope with the help of these examples, I have solved your doubt. If you still have any queries or if there's a doubt in any part of the code that I have explained, please mention them in the comments below and I will be more than happy to address your doubts.